How's it going out there, YouTube? Well, quite frankly, I feel like shit, I sound like shit, but I feel better than I did 2 days ago. So, I would have hopped on this bandwagon earlier, but I wasn't really feeling it. But I'm going to today, and I don't have the script or anything, so bear with me if you will. I'm going to be talking about the recent event called Thotaudit. I say that as though it's past, which it hasn't. It's not like a full moon where it happens one night and goes away. No, this has been a perpetual thing for the past, I don't know, say 5-6 days, 4 or 5, 6 days, something like that. I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to it when I first saw it show up on my Twitter feed. I just thought it was some dumb fucking shit, which, quite frankly, it still kind of is. But I thought it was more dumb shit than it actually was. Regardless, that aside, I find it hilarious in a lot of ways that are turned a lot of people into libertarians overnight. Well, I say libertarians. They hold a certain libertarian belief basically overnight based upon this particular subject. And I'll get into how I feel about it in a second here. The reality of the situation is I find this mostly hilarious because when I first started hearing about it, the only thing I could think of is one of those sex marches or any sex worker march or any women's rights march or whatever, and a bunch of these usually super liberals walking down the streets with signs that could be attributed to taxation as theft. Normally they wouldn't care. Income tax to them is just another way to make money to further advance social programs ran by the government. Meanwhile, the government sticks a gun to somebody else's head and extorts some money from them. All the while putting under the branding is free, but for those of us with half of a brain and understanding of basic economics, there's no such thing as free, especially when the government's giving it up. But the fact of the matter is, I just find it absolutely hilarious the instant reaction of a number of mostly right-wing mostly left-wing individuals in regards to this, just because it happens to affect women. Now, before I get skewered on the altar of libertarianism and my own belief that taxation is theft, let me voice my opinion. I don't agree with the audit whatsoever. I think it's fucking dumb. I think it is a pathetic example of somebody that didn't get what they wanted out of the situation, so they told the government to come in and help, which personally is fucking retarded. I don't agree with doing this to anybody. The IRS has no business knowing what you do or do not make. Personally, the IRS is just, it's the mafia. Instead of breaking your kneecaps when you don't pay them, they just throw your ass in prison. Quite frankly, the mafia is kind of easier to deal with if you're asking my personal opinion. But that aside, that's how I feel about the whole thing in a general statement. Another thing that I really want to know is that the guys, and maybe possibly even girls in some cases, but for the sake of argument, the guys that are actually paying for these premium Snapchats, which is the kernel of the maelstrom that is this massive shit show. These premium Snapchats held behind a paywall. Why are you paying to see a nude? I don't care how beautiful she is. You could find free porn on the internet without any trouble at all. Hell, I was finding free porn on the internet when I was 14 and I had dial. There is no excuse for this shit nowadays. I can't. Who would pay money? It's like going to a strip joint. I mean, the only thing, at least the nice thing about the strip joint is if you go there with a couple of guys, you can have a few beers and you can talk about, cars, guns, trucks, State of the Union. Guy time. If you're just lonely sitting in your beanbag chair eating Cheetos, beating off to some chick that you're paying for that Snapchat, for what purpose? Just go on Xvideos or Pornhub, you fucking tool. And of course, the assumption by most people is that the people that are doing this are incels. And of course, the far right had to get tossed into the fray, which there's no bigger boogeyman nowadays than the far right. No, I do vaguely recall it used to be referred to as the alt-right. Though I find it kind of funny that the left seem to stop using that term quite as often. I mean, they still do use it, but they don't use it anywhere near as often as they used to. I mean, they used to refer to, well, you name it as far as alt-right. I mean, the Sargon of Akkad, people like that, Count Dankula, people that normally would be considered liberal, they consider them alt-right, but they push that buzzword to the wayside, now use the term far right to basically mean anybody that they disagree with. But that's a topic for an entirely different video if I even do make that one. The absolute hypocrisy of some people, though, that I saw, more specifically on the libertarian side of things, is that people that would normally have an issue with tax collectors having no issue with this whatsoever. Like, if you're gonna have a belief system, at least maintain that belief system in a somewhat consistent manner. Like, apply that the way that you think, the same to everything, and to an equal basis, at least to as much as your own ability and your own knowledge. Don't say that you have an issue, and this goes both ways. This goes like bisexual. This goes both ways for the left and the right, because they both are guilty of it. And obviously, because I was talking about libertarians, even libertarians themselves are guilty of this. Hell, we're all guilty of it in our own right at some point in our lives, I'm sure. But the fact of the matter is, just because everybody's guilty of it doesn't make you any less of an asshole for doing it. If you have an issue with tax collectors going after the income tax of certain people that are totally fine with it for whatever personal moral reasons you use to justify it, if you're totally fine with it in the other circumstances, you're just a hypocrite. Because, quite frankly, taxation is theft regardless of where that theft is coming from. That person, you may deem that what they did is not work, but essentially they put the effort in. Somebody actually gave them money, is essentially what it is. Gave them money to see them naked. Do I have an issue with it on a moral compass? No, not really. It's just porno. Just the modern day version of it. And a lot more expensive for what you can get online. But at the end of the day, this is all continued to go on a hell of a lot longer than I thought it was going to. I thought this was going to be one of those things where it was on Twitter for a day and a half, and then 3 days later, everybody forgot that it even happened. But no, of course, you got the morally righteous on both the left and the right that had to stick their fucking nose in it and have a conversation about it, like they actually know what the fuck's going on. I say the morally left and the morally... my camera cut out on me for some reason right there. But anyway, what I was saying before that segue happened was the morally left and the morally right had to stick their fucking nose in it. And as usual, they got blown way out of proportion, and it's still going on until this day. As far as I know, anyway, obviously it's kind of fallen to the wayside given other certain things that have happened, raised more eyebrows than this probably ever really should have, to be honest. More pressing topics for the world to be dealing with than this fucking stupid shit. That's just the way that it goes. I guess I really shouldn't be surprised, though, seeing as this is kind of the world that we live in nowadays. But anyway, that pretty much does it for this video. I don't know when my next one's going to be out. Quite frankly, I feel like dog shit, so I don't know how long this cold's going to last. It's been going on for a week now. Well, I say a week, but probably more like, I've had it since Sunday, so like 4 days. It feels like longer. It feels like a fucking week. Anyway, I'm going to see you guys whenever I feel better. So have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, and or night, and I will see you cunts in the next one.